You know, I only have 10 folders.
We'll skip the news then.
We only need one.
Thanks, George. I'm all right.
Your drive up.
Okay? Sure. Good afternoon. Thank you all for coming here today. Let me start off by discussing my motivation for what you're about to hear. I know that some will call me bitter. Some will say I'm trying to settle some score. Nothing could be further from the truth. I have had my life investigated inside out. Federal officials, state officials. I was accused of theft, I was accused of corruption, I was accused of obstruction, and at the end of the day, in the words of the Buffalo News, the case against Maziars fizzled. It fizzled because it was brought about by Eric Schneiderman to just try to take me out of politics. My reason for today is the fact that I believe in transparency and accountability and good government. And all these investigations into me provided me with a wealth of information that shows people who were close to me, people who I considered close friends, trusted individuals, were doing things so egregious that I was shocked to learn about it. Quite frankly, it appears investigators were shocked when they learned that I had nothing to do with or had not received any monetary gain from what I'm about to discuss. And let me be clear. I'm not going to mistreat people the way I was mistreated. I'm not going to make baseless claims and then try to back them up later on. I will lay out the facts and provide material evidence using people's own admissions and words and let them explain their words and deeds. So with that, let's begin. I wanted to start with, in your packets, you have the first clip is an FBI 302. Now, an FBI 302 is a statement given to FBI agents at a meeting where the individuals are informed that if they lie to that FBI agent or those agents, that they are, that is a federal crime. This is a redacted version of that FBI 302 interview with now Assemblyman Michael Norris. And I thought it was important and as I said, this is a redacted version, but on the last page, page 8, which I think is the first page on your clips, Michael Norris talks about 4 Points Communication, a company which was awarded a grant to do grant writing for the County of Niagara. This company had absolutely zero experience. The owner of it was listed as a Melinda Boskin. Melinda Boskin had zero experience in writing grants. She was the legal secretary for then the de facto Republican Party chairman, Henry Watasic. In this FBI 302, remember, it's a federal crime if you lie to them. Mike Norris said that Jeff Glass, the NIAGARA County manager, and Watasic are very close. Glass is from North Tonawanda. Watasic told Glass to put a request for proposals together for a new grant writer in Niagara County. Watasic told Glass that they needed to get Rick Winter, 4 Points Communication, in there. Glass set up a committee for the RFP, and they chose 4 Points Communication as the new vendor for grant writing. This is exactly what defendants in the Buffalo Billion are going to jail for. Set up an RFP, make the process look transparent, but have a preordained decision as to who is going to get that particular bid. Okay? And then you have, the next thing in your first set of clips is a financial analysis of 4 points communication by Molly Brewster. Molly Brewster is identified as an FBI financial analyst. And you can see Four Points Communication was a sham company, as I stated earlier. It was set up only to get Niagara County taxpayers' money flowing. You can use the term laundered, if you will.
What was the sham company, George? Which one?
4 Points Communication.
You're talking about the Rick Winter Group?
Yes. This,
Didn't Rick used to work for you? At
yes.
one time?
Back in the 90s.
Yes, go ahead.
All right. This iteration of 4 Points, and the county had several iterations of 4 Points Communication, was headed by Melinda Boskin. This company had no website. They had no physical presence. They were not listed in any county business directory or anything like that. They had one customer, the county of Niagara. Niagara County paid them $150,000. I'm rounding off these numbers, $150,000. The FBI financial analyst, Melinda Boskin, broke it down to the penny by the income was $147,841. $147,600 all came from Niagara County. But the payments were made without the knowledge, by the way, of the county legislature to Henry Watasic for almost $50,000. Joe Latona, $3,000. I'll get into that in a minute. Paul Colangelo, who was Henry Watasic's cousin, was paid almost $30,000. Mary and Melinda Boskin was the owner of the company. She was Henry's secretary. 0 grant writing experience. Was paid almost $50,000. And then some minor expenditures. Almost $10,000 is basically just taken out at ATMs in cash. Now remember, this is all Niagara County taxpayer money, which is basically taken out at ATMs in cash. I mentioned Joe Latona was paid $3,000. Joe Latona never did any legal work for 4 Points Communication. The next.
Well, okay, George, can we give like what you're saying here?
I'll take questions at the end.
All right, go ahead.
The next thing in that first clip is a letter from Patrick Brown, who represented Henry Watasic. And during my case, we subpoenaed the records of 4 Points Communication. And the response is in this letter, which basically is highlighted as number 6, where it said, Watasic does not have any documents responsive to items 1 through 5, 11, 13, or 15. So they couldn't, was paid $50,000 and could not provide one email, one letter, one document, anything as to what he earned, as to what he performed for earning that $50,000. Clearly, this was a sham. I think it was done to basically get money from the taxpayers of Niagara County without rendering any services. Now, I would say that several news outlets, but most particularly the Buffalo News, reported numerous complaints about 4 Points Communication, about their grant writing ability, that they at one point cost the county a grant in the amount of $340,000. The next item, the clips in your packets, has to do with the Niagara County Republican Committee.
Will you speak towards the microphone?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, if you keep
Niagara
turning
County
towards them
Republican
and you're
Committee,
missing what
okay.
you're saying, that's all.
And also attached to those clips are 2 additional FBI 302s, one from Michael Norris and one from Jack Cookfair, who is a a campaign coordinator, expert, if you will, from Syracuse. And in those FBI 302s, you can read at great length, about, remember, FBI 302 interview, if you lie, it's a federal crime. Mike Norris stated that he was told by Henry Watasic to write a check to Cook Fair Media for $30,000. That we owed, the Niagara County Republican Committee owed Cook Fair Media $30,000. Norris wrote the check, that's Norris' signature there. Norris wrote the check. Cook Fair, in his FBI 302, says that he was told by Watasic, you're going to be getting a check from the Niagara County Republican Committee for $30,000. Take that check, deposit it, and write me a check for $10,000, and write Joel Giambra a check for $20,000. The Niagara County Republican Committee didn't owe Jack Cook Fair $30,000, they didn't owe Henry $10,000, and they didn't owe Joel Giambra the $20,000. And you can see in the sequence, and I don't want to, because you told me not to do this, you can see in the sequence, the check was written, the two checks were written back to Henry Watasic, and within 2 days, Henry Watasic paid almost $30,000, coincidentally, in his federal income tax. Again, all these were records that were supplied to me for preparation for my going to trial. Now, was the money from the county committee used to pay someone's income taxes? I think you can draw your own conclusions, if you will. But I thought it was important that particularly you know about that. The last thing I want to mention is, and one of the reasons why we are here today, why I'm here today, is because this type of activity hasn't stopped. It's just moved over to Western Region off-track betting. Just yesterday, Investigative Post, Jim Haney, who I think most of you are probably familiar with, posted a story about Western Region OTB and about the obscene payment of health insurance benefits for members of the board. Despite the fact that the Attorney General's office issued a ruling several years ago that said it is improper to pay health insurance benefits for members of an OTB board in the state of New York. Western Region has decided to ignore that. Western Region went on to say that they had a different opinion from the Controller's office. If you read that article from yesterday, the Controller disputes that severely. But even so, Board of Directors of OTB show up for one meeting a month, 1 day a month. They are provided with the best health insurance coverage you can buy in the state of New York. I want to repeat that. 1 day a month, the best health insurance coverage you can buy in the state of New York. Their contribution for that is zero. This type of activity, as I said, has just been transferred over to Western Region OTB. Scott Kudrowski, who served for a number of years, for almost 9 years, as the Niagara County representative on the OTB board, told the FBI in another 302 that he had a college degree which allowed him to get a full-time job in excess of $100,000 at Western Region OTB. He told the New York State Gaming Commission that he had a college degree in being able to qualify for this position. He did not have a college degree. For almost 2 years, I think almost 18, 19 months, Mr. Kudrowski served as the director from Niagara County. At the same time, he was employed by the New York State Senate, which is clearly a violation, which Western Region OTB was very well aware of. But the other thing pointed out in the Jim Haney article yesterday was the use of OTB funds, and we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars. I want to emphasize this. Hundreds of thousands of dollars to buy tickets for Bills games, Sabres games, golf outings, concerts over the course of the last several years. Ostensibly, and the front story is that these tickets go to high-end gamers at Batavia Downs. I can tell you through this, what happened to me, that it became very clear. Most of these tickets, the overwhelming majority of these tickets, are used by either the executives at OTB. Scott Kudrowski practically used it as a family season ticket for the Bills and for the Sabres. Now we're talking taxpayer dollars being used for private purposes. That is a violation of New York State law. If one of these clerks that works over here took a couple $100 out of the till and went and bought a hockey ticket to take their kid to a hockey game, they would be arrested. As well they should be. That is going on at OTB today. 2 media outlets have requested a list of who has used those tickets. Both were denied. What I'm asking today is for the counties, the 15 counties and the 2 cities, Rochester and Buffalo, that represent the OTB district, that the county should demand a list of who has used these tickets over the last 10 years, specifically end users' names of these tickets. I think the counties who own OTB will be shocked. I think the media will be shocked, and I know that the public is going to be shocked. I want to get back once again to Niagara County. Niagara County Legislature should clearly investigate what I think any normal thinking human being would see is potential bid rigging. The County of Niagara could ask the governor to appoint a special prosecutor to look into it. Clearly, I think, you know, the old saying, where there's smoke, there's fire. There is a lot of smoke here. All of this was very apparent to Eric Schneider, and he ignored it. All of these documents came from the Attorney General's office, and he ignored it. He ignored real crimes to try to settle a political vendetta against me. I'm sure I have a lot more, but I'm going to open it up for questions.
What would you say, what's the vendetta that Schneiderman had against you?
Well, he and I were in the state Senate together, and we were on opposite sides of the aisle, obviously, you know, New York City liberal, and we clashed often in the state Senate.
So you're saying the organization that you more or less created, you're upset because now they're going against
I'm sorry,
you?
could you identify yourself?
Dave Mangello.
Yeah.
So you're saying the organization you created that has...
What media are you with? What media are you
I'm my own media.
Okay, well,
So,
I'm
so,
going to take questions from the media. I'm taking
George,
questions from the media.
so the organization you created, you're upset because they're going against you.
I'm taking questions from the media.
George,
Yeah, Tom.
I think what you're saying here is you're alleging that Glantz and Watasic engaged in a scheme to rig the bid for Rick Winter's group, and it was similar to the bid rigging in the Buffalo Billion situation. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I would also throw Assemblyman Mike Norris in there too.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure, vaguely, yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. And I want to make a point. Norris, and one of the things that precipitated my being here today, it was recently reported that Mike Norris, in his financial disclosure report to the New York State Assembly, has reported earning hundreds of thousands of dollars from his law firm, Seaman and Norris, or Norris and Seaman, whatever it is. Most of that is coming from municipal clients. I believe that they represent at least 6 to 8 towns in Niagara County. They represent the Niagara County Water District. They represent a lot of municipalities. I think that those town supervisors, those town boards have a right to know and should know, and I think after this press conference today will know that Mike Norris was involved in rigging the bids. Yes.
George, you rely a lot on the FBI 302s here, but there are other FBI 302s that go back to the original iteration of 4 Points with Tom Lewis, in which the allegation is that you and Rick Winter were involved in setting up 4 Points to funnel money to Glenn Aronow and to Rob Ortt's wife.
That is not true. First of all, I've never seen a 302 that has said that.
We have.
I've never seen it. It was not provided to me.
So you
That is not
categorically
true.
deny that you have
Absolutely.
ever been involved in the
Absolutely.
creation of 4 Point Communications?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What do you want the legislature, you're talking about the Niagara County legislature, you want the state to appoint a special prosecutor,
Well, the Niagara County Legislature would have to ask the governor to do that.
and you want them to do that?
Yeah, yeah.
George, when did you find out about this scheme that you're alleging here?
When did I find out about this?
When did you become aware of it?
Well, right after probably mid-2017.
Mid-2017?
Yeah.
So you were unaware of this back in 2012, 2000?
I was not aware of this.
Basically, what you're saying is that the DA in Niagara County cannot investigate this.
Well, she can't investigate it because, quite frankly, much of this $50,000.
George.
Yes, I'm sorry. Much of this $50,000 was deposited into her and her spouse's personal bank account, and clearly, this money went to pay her federal income taxes.
Strategic Partners is Joel Giamberg?
Joel Giamberg's firm, yes.
What does Mark Grisanti have to do with this?
Who?
What does Mark Grisanti have to do with this? He's named in separate terms.
Henry Watasic contended that the $30,000 was money that county committee owed to Jack Cookfair for working on Mark Grisanti's campaign. Mark Grisanti told the FBI that he paid Jack Cookfair directly. His committee paid Jack Cookfair directly. He did work on his campaign, did great work, paid him directly. Mark Grisanti knew nothing about the payments to Henry Watasic or Joel Giamberg.
If you knew about this in mid-17, why now?
You know, that's a good question, thank you. You know, I've been sitting back for a long time. I've been waiting for regulatory agencies, I've been waiting for investigative agencies. You know, Henry Watasic to this day has a license to operate a casino in New York State. Not just any casino, the only publicly owned casino in the state of New York. Scott Kudrowski has a license to operate that same casino. What tripped me to come up here today was quite honestly in Rochester, and I'm not sure of the timing here, just a couple of days ago, I believe, or maybe last week, I'm not sure again of the timing. But the U.S. Attorney for the Western District announced the arrest of a city councilman and a executive of, I believe, the Rochester Municipal Housing Authority. What they did was they created a sham company to basically steal money from the Rochester City Housing Authority. They had the sham company sign a contract with the Rochester City Housing Authority. It's the exact same thing that happened here, and yet here, nothing was done.
Schneiderman just washed his hands, you're saying, because he settled with you, that's what he wanted to do?
That's yes, yeah. But I think the taxpayers in Niagara County have a right to know about it. The article yesterday in Investigative Post by Jim Haney shows that this type of behavior is just transferred. It went from the Niagara County Republican Committee, Niagara County Legislature, now it's over at Western Region OTB.
Wasn't Norris granted immunity for his testimony before the grand jury?
Was Mike, a very good question, thank you for asking. Mike Norris was granted immunity 3 times. What was it, you're granted immunity, I am told, when you admit that you committed a crime and you're willing to testify against someone else in exchange for not being prosecuted. What were the crimes that the sitting New York State Assemblyman committed? To be honest with you, and I'm going to be critical of your profession, I couldn't believe, honestly, in the last general election that the media was not all over that. What crimes, Mr. Norris, did you commit that you were granted immunity 3 times during the course of your career? I know I'm going to get back to where you were. You know, I think the real question is, was Mike Norris granted immunity from being prosecuted for rigging bids for the County of Niagara? And if in fact he was, shouldn't the Attorney General have informed the victims of that embezzlement, which would be the representatives of the people of Niagara County, the taxpayers of Niagara County?
Have you talked to the New York State Attorney General yet? Have you talked to the new Attorney General yet for New York State?
No.
Do you plan on?
No, I'm hoping you will.
Do you know if Watasic was granted immunity as well?
I have no idea.
So do you believe he could still be prosecuted on?
I'm not a lawyer. I really don't have any idea. But I do think that agencies like the Gaming Commission should be, you know, are they not concerned that people who have a license to operate not just a casino, but the only publicly owned casino in the state of New York, are they not concerned about hundreds of thousands of dollars being spent for golf, for concerts, for sporting events? You know, who is using those tickets?
So we have two separate allegations here. One is bid rigging for a sham communications, a grant writing company, and the other would be sort of a pass-through scheme to pay Henry Watasic.
Thank you. That's a word I was looking for earlier.
So if you had to sum this up, I mean...
It was a pass-through scheme, yes.
Hasn't bid rigging been going on for centuries, honestly?
Yeah, and people are prosecuted for it. Ask Lou Simonelli.
Now, you were very close to Henry Watasic for many, many years. In fact, the two of you were controlled GOP politics in NIAGARA County since the early 90s. And obviously, you're no longer allied in any fashion. You're accusing him today of being involved in bid rigging and being involved with what's your contract betting, suspicious activity with the taxpayer money from the county.
Yes. Well, if you go to the Investigative Post article that was just posted yesterday, you will see that the Investigative Post asked for a copy of who's using the tickets. And so did another media outlet. Mr. Watasic refused to do that, despite the fact that Bob Freeman, who you are all familiar with, Bob Freeman said it is absolutely disclosable. When I was preparing to go to trial, we subpoenaed the names of those individuals who were using using those tickets. Mr. Watasic was publicly quoted in the Buffalo News on a Tuesday as saying that they were going to totally comply with the subpoena, that they were going to turn over this information. That was on a Tuesday. On Thursday, in an Albany County courtroom, a high-priced lawyer from New York City showed up, said, I represent Western Region OTB, and we are under no circumstances going to reveal who is using these tickets for golf, football, hockey. And again, I want to emphasize, we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars a year.
George, to Tony's point, you were arguably the most influential person in the Republican Party in Niagara County at the time that you're alleging that this scheme took place.
Yes.
And you knew nothing about it? You knew nothing about this?
I can tell you, I knew nothing about it. I knew that the county had you know, certainly was out getting grants, had grant writers, you know, but I knew nothing about the kickbacks going back to Watasic, going back to Watasic's cousin, going back to it was publicly reported about Belinda Boskin. And this, I can tell you, absolutely tell you, I know nothing about that.
So if this is a crime, why can't it be prosecuted now?
That's a good question. I think maybe bringing it to public light, I think that maybe the Gaming Commission may have something to say. Maybe the county legislature will want to get to the bottom of the whole the grant writing thing. And as I think was pointed out earlier, I'm just pointing out one iteration of 4 points communication. There were several.
As a follow-up to the last question, I mean, is this an isolated example of what you're calling criminal wrongdoing?
This is what I know about.
Or is there a systemic problem in the Republican Party in Niagara County?
No, I don't think there's a systemic problem with the Republican Party at all. I think there's a problem with individuals that were within the Republican Party.
How did you know nothing about this?
I'm sorry?
How did you know nothing about this in 2012 in the position that you were in? You had your hands in the Republican Party at this
Right.
time. How did you know nothing
Well,
about
because this, you know, the bid rigging with the grant writing really wasn't part of the Republican Party.
What was it part of?
The bid rigging I'm talking about. The bidding, that was more a county process, you know, involving.
These are all most of them were all former top associates of you.
They are. Yeah, they were my.
They're going to say,
the most
this
disappointing
is
one
George
here
with
today
sour
is me.
grapes.
When I heard this, I said that in my opening statement.
Yeah.
That's exactly what they're going to say. You know, but I think that you know, number one, the Niagara County Legislature, the voters, the taxpayers in Niagara County have a right to know.
George, is that not an indictment of you, that all these people you were so so close with, Rick Winter, Henry Watasic, Scott Podrowski, you're now accusing of being criminals? You were in this circle. You were floated. These were your associates for a long time. Is that not an indictment of you?
I don't think so.
Why not?
I don't, because I wasn't involved in this particular aspect of what they were doing. As I said, you know, people who were close to me, as you pointed out, were very close to me, basically were using that relationship to financially enrich themselves. You know, I think, to be very frank with you, I think that the investigators from the AG's office and the FBI, when they saw everything that was going on here, they thought to themselves, some of this money has to be going back to George Maziarz. It has to be going back to George Maziarz because he's so close, as you pointed out. I think that they were shocked when they found out that just the opposite was the truth, and I think that's what precipitated them dropping just about all the charges against me.
You did plead guilty to falsifying campaign finance
To one misdemeanor, quite frankly, to get it over with. That's why people do that today. You know, there's an argument going on in Albany right now about discovery and how prosecutors hold information to the very last minute, and then because you know they just bleed you dry for legal fees, and you just plead. When they told me that this thing was going to go away, that Schneiderman was dropping all the charges, and a misdemeanor with a conditional discharge.
So you had any discussions with the Niagara County legislature prior to today about this?
I would tell you, I'm certain, well, I suspect that there's probably not a legislator who knows this.
So
who knows that Henry Watasic was getting money with Paul Colangelo's cousin?
George, to follow up on Phil's question, all these guys were part of your kitchen cabinet. You never had discussions in the kitchen cabinet about 4 Points communication before the iteration involving Boskin. There were no discussions of 4 Points prior to Boskin because 4 Points existed before Boskin.
Yes, I said there were several iterations of 4 Points.
Right. But
no,
there were no. You never had any discussions.
No, and quite frankly, we didn't have discussions about it because they knew that if I knew where the money was going, it would have ended real quick.
So are you not, even though you admitted or pleaded guilty to falsifying campaign finance report, do you not freely admit that now? Are you saying you didn't falsify a campaign finance report?
I never filed a campaign financial disclosure form in my life. I wouldn't know, to be real frankly, I wouldn't know how to do it. I think you have to have code to get into the Board of Elections or something. I never signed one.
Erno got paid.
Pardon?
He got paid by the
Yes, he did.
machinations that went on.
And he worked for it.
George. Hi, Niagara News Source Joe Kissel. I'm also running for the Niagara County Legislature 9th District seat. George, you reached out to me in July, and I interviewed you a couple of times, and you were gonna come out, and I published a story exactly about all of this. Why didn't you come out? The intention was to come out before the Norris election and sort of upset his apple cart. Why did you decide to never do that?
It wasn't about the election. Quite frankly, I was kind of hoping that some of these investigative agencies would have picked up the baton and ran with it, like the Gaming Commission, like the Attorney General, the Interim Attorney General, and they haven't to this day. And I just went over, I don't know if you were here or not, I'm sorry.
I was a little late.
Okay. I just went over what sort of prompted me now. The story yesterday with the Investigative Post,
Gotcha.
This example in Rochester, and Mike Norris's financial disclosure statements where he's reporting hundreds of thousands of dollars representing municipal clients. All right, thank you all very much. I appreciate it again. I know the weather was bad. I appreciate everybody coming out. Thanks.
So George, even though you allowed Mike Norris to live in your apartment in Albany, to go to law school, that's not a significant issue in this, or?
He's good.
It's his birthday today.
Really? How old is he?
87.
God bless him.
So George, did Mike Norris live in your apartment in Albany?
You done?
Not yet. No, we need a couple minutes.
George, did Mike? George.
You need a move?
You can give me 20 minutes.
George, did Mike Norris live in your apartment in Albany? After he stole thousands of dollars from the NIAGARA County Board of Elections.
Sure, that's what I was gonna, that's what I was asking.
Albany by chance or no?